Hello, and thank you for joining us. I am Stephen Ramirez. I'm the CEO of Beyond the Arc, and I also have the pleasure this year of being the co-chair of the Generative AI Applications Summit. And with me is my co-host and co-partner in crime, Martin Musial. Martin, if you would also be so kind as to just do a little brief introduction.
Yeah, thank you so much for setting this up, Stephen. I'm Martin Musial, the CEO and founder of GenerativeAI.net. Up until last year, I was also the Generative AI lead for EMEA at Infosys Consulting. And now I am doing I'm in the business building and utilizing the generative AI wave and all of these applications, to build value, to create value for people.
Excellent. And I want to thank people who are joining us. We're going out live over several platforms today. We're going to be broadcasting on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and on Facebook. And I know from our last experience on LinkedIn, if you're on LinkedIn and you're not hearing audio, then you may need to refresh the page to make sure that you can hear the wonderful things that we are actually saying. We're also going to have the comments that are going to be live. At least I believe we are. And so please go ahead and use that. We'd love to get your participation as we go along. And so feel free to make comments, ask questions. We'll try to. I think we'll be able to pull some of those questions in as we go. So let me give you just a little bit of a preview of the about 20 minutes or so that we're going to spend with you this fine morning. So first of all, we want to just talk a little bit about generative AI and really the process and really the upside of building applications in generative AI. So that is really going to be where this conversation is going to start. This is an incredibly fast-moving field with lots of experience now kind of coming together with companies and organizations all across the spectrum. So we're just going to talk a little bit about that. And then that's a good lead in to talk about the event that we are planning. We're going to be, as I mentioned, we're co-hosts for Generative AI Applications Summit. And so we'll talk a little bit about the keynote speakers and something that very exciting that we're doing. And this is why I think you should stick around for this conversation. Martin and I have put together what we're calling the Generative AI Applications Accelerator workshop. And this workshop is really hands-on. And so in this session that we'll be hosting in Phoenix, as a part of this conference, you will come away with, not just an action plan, but really sort of an application template to get started on Gen AI projects within your organization. So that'll be sort of the second major thing that we're going to touch on. And then kind of last but not least, Martin, I'm going to put you in the hot seat and ask you about your book. I think it's really exciting that some of the things that you're covering there. So those will be the three things that we're going to tackle. So Martin, let me just let you kind of kick things off. I know we want to talk about getting business value out of generative AI, and maybe let me just toss the football to you. How do people get started with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So how do they get started? So I'm looking back at several years of consulting, and of course, since generative AI is a big topic since last year, generative AI consulting was basically only in 23, and not prior to that. But it's a multi-layered approach, I think. So of course there are like low-hanging fruits by using certain tools, like the Microsoft Copilot Pro. By the way, I'm not super convinced yet of that product because I've used it. It's the quality. There is like still some air, especially when we talk about Excel and using it in Excel and so forth. But then there is also applications such as superhuman AI, where AI or generative AI language models are integrated into the product. Yeah, you write emails and you basically chat with an AI. It understands what your language, how you typically write emails, and understands also the full context of an email, and can then craft the answer for you. You then just say okay and send it out. So these are like sort of like low hanging fruits where one can save lots of time, I think, in the daily work. Email is especially consuming so much. But when we speak about professional production ready applications within organizations, and I have consulted larger corporations as well as smaller to medium companies. How it typically works is that they have some kind of a knowledge corpus, can be some FAQs, regulations, or let me make it a bit more tangible. I had a client from a container shipping industry, and they had lots of regulations. So they had containers where they had to ship it from, let's say, one country, Taiwan, to another country, South Korea, and then we have regulations applying from South Korea, from Taiwan. Then there are general regulations and internal rules, and maybe there's also a strategy how they want to answer certain emails. And so their clients are asking lots of questions, basically against these regulations. And then internal employees have to craft the email. Yeah, they have to like read through all the documentation and then answer it, understand what actually is the question, cross-read it, and then send it out. So this can take up to half a day, yeah, to answer if it's a complex ask. And we have built a chatbot internally where utilizing a RAG system, a retrieval augmented generation system, where all of the databases, all of these knowledges, your knowledge corpus is plugged in, and through a semantic search algorithm, the respective relevant pieces of the various databases are then used in order to craft an answer by sending the context to a language model. And in this specific part where you have sort of like the chunks and the knowledge pieces of the databases that are relevant for that specific ask, when you put this together, this is called then prompt engineering. Here's where you can really gain a lot of where you can really make great products by good prompt engineering. And so like this, we have built then the chatbot that then answers the ask in literally under 2 minutes, and the representative sort of like cross reads it, maybe has another question towards that response. There's another iteration then, but can then literally copy and paste it and send it to their client. And we have saved up to 80% per iteration, 80% of time and effort. So there are huge wins, and this is what I think mostly drives professional.
I think it's super exciting, and you know, just to amplify, I think a couple of the points that you've made. I mean, so first of all, I have not really gone down the path with Copilot very much. But I'll tell you, I was very interested in some reading I did over the weekend around using Microsoft Copilot with my tool of choice, PowerPoint, and being able to use a system that ingests documents, comes up with insights, and like everybody's dream, makes you like almost the near perfect, not near perfect, but not bad first draft PowerPoint, in a matter of minutes. I mean, I think that just the day-to-day application of generative AI, like if you're not using it yet, kind of on your desktop, I think that kind of workflow will just blow your mind, right? Like anybody and the ability to go from, as you said, from Excel or Word or PowerPoint, and to be able to layer a generative AI solution, I think that's tremendous. On the other hand, I think that more as you start to build more sophisticated systems, as you're talking about, where it really is a business system based on generative AI, I think this is super exciting. My team has been working actually in that same kind of regulatory space. So we have a client who's in the electric power industry. It's a heavily regulated industry, and there's a lot of operating concerns, and safety is constantly an issue. And so to be able to go back through 10 or 20 years of operating experience and identify key trends to improve safety and to improve work procedures, like this is something that if you were to think about it, if you do it manually, I mean, it would take you months, if not years,
Yeah.
and we're building a generative AI application to be able to do that, do that in minutes for someone who's working, through some of these issues. So I see it also very tangibly, and I think it really leads to the possibility that really any kind of business can be building applications in generative AI.
Yeah. And may I also add something to it, a little outlook to the future. So currently we are tackling the problem of language models not being able to take in all the data that exists, within an organization. So we have to do it with that RAG system, right? Retrieval augmented generation that I just described. And the next sort of frontier, and we see already the trend happening, is that you have language models that have function calling. They can basically, or it's also called tool use. When you, so Anthropic, for instance, has developed this for their Claude 3 sort of like series, of language models. So Claude 3 Opus has the tool use. So and that makes the language model actually into an agent. So, and what it does is that the language model gets the request, hey, answer this and that, against that knowledge corpus within that organization, and the language model can then is plugged into directly into the knowledge databases, and can through the tool use can then choose which tool I need for what in order to solve what. There can be a tool for reading a database, there can be a tool for answering an email, there can be a tool for accessing or whatever. So that is quite powerful, and can basically, that whole architecture is not needed then anymore, and the language model does it itself autonomously, and goes like within the and searches for the respective things.
That is
Quite
really kind of
interesting.
that's really the next generation, right? It's a complete, not just generative AI, but really I think you're talking about automated generative AI, right? I mean, that's really getting us
Yeah.
towards, we're going to save this because that's getting us towards the AGI future that I know that your book touches on. But before we go there, so we're talking about building applications. We're talking about, how some of the promise and what you and I have actually both seen in our work. But now we get to go to this summit where we are convening, dozens of companies and in total hundreds of participants to come and tell their AI stories, right? So we're going to, on our agenda, we have companies that are, that are really sort of leading the charge and actually have, applications that they're starting to build. I want to talk a little bit about who's going to be on the agenda, but before I do, let's talk about this accelerator that you and I are creating, because I think that I haven't seen anything like it at all the conferences that I go to. Just give us the quick, kind of 60-second intro into what we're hoping to accomplish.
Yeah. So drawing from our consulting experience, especially with these Gen AI solutions, we have sort of like a two-step approach. In the first step, we want to, together with the participants, we want to identify which ideas within their specific organization can be shortlisted to examine further. And the shortlisting goes really with a hands-on approach. Participants come with an access to a chatbot. Language model can be ChatGPT, can be Claude 3 Opus or Gemini, and they try out with certain prompting rules how to solve a specific problem. So in that way, we shortlist, let's say, the top 3, top 5, or maybe it's just one idea. That's step 1. Step 2, we then map this idea, or this shortlisted idea, onto a sort of canvas, Gen AI Accelerator canvas, where we have the data layer, we have the search layer, we have a generation layer, and then an application layer, which basically is on top of everything, yeah, the application layer. Um, and participants then, with guiding questions by us, answer the questions and know, okay, this is the data that I have. This could be auxiliary data. Do I actually need a search functionality? What is the generation layer? What do I need to take into consideration? Open source, closed source. There's a plethora of things to keep in mind. And then actually, what application do I plug it into another as a white label, or is it am I using maybe like an avatar, or is it a chatbot framework, a classic one? So we are elaborating sort of like on a broad scale on all of this, and also we have a share out, all of us together, yeah, which will be, I think, super powerful.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think that this is really, kind of if you are, in an organization and you're thinking about developing, well, first of all, you're just thinking about how to use generative AI, and you want to take it beyond, logging into a web interface and asking a question, right? That you probably have mastered. But if you really want to build that into business applications, that are doing, as Martin talked about, this augmented search capabilities using generative AI to then not just search, but then to be able to use those documents for the new creation of content and insights and knowledge in very specific business use cases. Well, that's what we're doing, right? Like that's really what this workshop is going to be about. And in addition, so the workshop I think is a key part of it. But Martin, I have to say it was hard work along the way, but we wound up with a pretty good agenda of companies that are going to be presenting at at the Generative AI Applications Summit. Are there any highlights for you? Like who are you looking forward to hearing from at the summit?
So yeah, there are several highlights. But I think just chronologically, but also like from the interest perspective, I'm very much looking forward to Julian Simon from Hugging Face, the chief evangelist from Hugging Face. I already heard and read a lot of him, and he is always very much on the bleeding edge of this tech, especially when it comes to how to use open source. And if you are not aware of it, open source is very rapidly catching up with the closed source performance. Yeah, and so I have also worked with plenty of clients that that have chosen open source because they have said, "Hey, I can have this what closed source is cheaper. I'm in full control of the language model. There are no guardrails by some other institute, and also like 2-3 months later, I'm at the same performance. So why would I even like go with closed source? That is a valid argument as well." Um, I know Julian Simon is very much deep in the trenches, and it's definitely a great experience to listen to him, and a learning jump right away.
Yeah, I think, and if you're not familiar with Hugging Face, I mean, it's really become kind of like the go-to hub for all open source Gen AI. It goes beyond Gen AI, but certainly from the Gen AI perspective, like what they've been able to do, I think is absolutely amazing. I think also too, I mean, I'm excited. We have Hitesh Wadha from Google. So the counterpoint to the open source is the amazing work that I continue to hear. And we know that Google has just immense resources devoted and have for years around AI of all sorts. So to have a kind of a key representative from Google, I think is also going to be fantastic. And maybe you could say a little bit about Matthew. Give us a little preview of what Matthew's like.
Yeah, and also to Hitesh, as you mentioned just now, he's not only working at Google, he's also a Gen AI ambassador. So that's really like his core work. And as there is going to be a Q&A session potentially afterwards, yeah, then I think I'm looking forward also to engage there on a conversation. Yeah. Matthew, yeah, he's I think on the second day. Then let me quickly check. Yeah, oh no, right. He's on the first day, and he comes from the data engineering department, and bridges basically the gap between data engineering and generative AI, machine learning. Also, yeah, from Ternary, he together with Joe Rice, I was there on their LinkedIn Live like roughly a month ago. They're having these Monday morning chats, quite yeah, well watched regularly. No, but it's also going to be a super interesting conversation, yeah, on what is happening also with data engineering, and this is also being part of that ecosystem, yeah, of AI
Yeah.
models.
Yeah, and then on the corporate side, lots of companies that are exploring and deploying Gen AI solutions. So, Autodesk, Paychex, Manulife, so financial services, technology, someone from Harvard, from the Harvard Business Review and Harvard Business Publishing. So looking forward to that. Also on the government side, the CDC, consulting, PwC. So really kind of a nice mix. And so we're really excited about sort of seeing everybody and really having this opportunity to dig into the application development. I'll just mention the website is on the screen. We also have a discount. We're the chairs, so we want to see you there. And so the discount code is scrolling across now. Check it out. I hope that you can join us in Phoenix. We're going to just, as we sort of wrap up, Martin, before we kind of end today, I do want to just ask you a little bit about the book. So tell us the title and give us just a couple of key highlights.
Yeah, thank you for asking. So I wrote Generative AI Navigate. You don't see it because of the blurring algorithm, but it's navigating the course to the artificial general intelligence future. What I'm basically, I wrote it together with, I wrote it myself, published by Wiley. And what this is mostly about is, first, I'm doing a very brief look on the history. It's not all of a sudden. You can even see we had the first chatbot actually in 65 by Joseph Weizenbaum, 1965. It was called Eliza. Super interesting. And it was actually quite funny. You were writing a sentence about, yeah, I like my family or whatever. And then the chatbot picked up the word family and said, oh, tell me more about your family, and basically just asked questions of keywords. So a bit more simple. Yeah, and then so a little history lookout, and yeah, look over the history, and then what is currently happening in generative AI. It's not only language models, it's also image generation, it's 3D object generation, super powerful. Opus AI, by the way, is a very strong company where they do, you type in certain, a text, a chair with this, and it generates the 3D version of it. Especially interesting for virtual reality, etc. We have sound generation, music generation, avatar generation. It's really getting better and better. Video generations, like you have heard also about the Sora, right? Sora by OpenAI, which is really strong in generating videos. Yeah. And this is already 2K, yeah, and not 4K yet, but 2K, and can produce up to a minute. Now think, like if I think a bit further, soon we
Well,
have
Martin,
movies.
so before my current current career path, I spent 10 years working in Hollywood in the movie
Oh yeah,
business, and believe me, if you think about just like what it would take to create a minute of animation, and the fact that you can now do that with 2 sentences, and and it generates in minutes, right, as opposed to teams of animators and render farms with like
yeah.
dozens of machines, right? Like it's just a
Wow, yeah,
completely different uh, kind of experience. So no, I
yeah.
think I mean so is there a key, if for the book, is there one key takeaway, like what do you want people to get out of this book after they've read it?
Yeah. So I'll do an educated guess. around where where AI is going. Yeah. So generative AI, I'm touching upon AI agents. By the way, in the writing process, many of these things already became valid. And then what is the path towards artificial general intelligence systems? Not like AGI is, I think, also a concept, and I'm discussing this in depth, a concept that is on the horizon, and it's like there are many different definitions, and yeah, this is more like the figure that we see on the horizon. But I think the path is more clear towards the horizon. If we will ever reach the horizon, that's I don't know. But one I think my gold nugget of the book is where I'm going through all of these different application fields, and then I have a summarized one which is called the untapped potential of generative AI, and I'm going through a process of identifying, in case someone is interested in building a product or building some value, or a company or start a project. I have a multi-step approach on how to identify cutting edge or new ideas, technological solutions, and basically making them or building them in a more mature way. So it's a proper project, and identifying it, especially in the untapped market.
I think it's so, and that sounds great. And I myself, I look forward to reading the book. I admit I haven't gotten it. I haven't gotten it yet, but it's on the list, and it's up next. But it's because the fact that we this generative AI technology seems mind-blowing. It is mind-blowing, right? But it seems sort of far away and maybe sort of fantastical, but I think that what I've appreciated in working with you and learning more about your book is that you bring it down to just real business reality, right? Like, hey, if we can actually tap this technology for real business systems, and there is a method for doing that, right? I think that is what's exciting to me. And and from where Gen AI just sort of burst on the scene, maybe for most of us, in the 18 months, I know that you're one of the OG, right? You've been following this trend, over the last 8 or 9 years from its very beginning, Martin. And so it's just really exciting to sort of now see this, see this take shape. I think we should probably leave it there. I don't know if you have any final comment you want to make before we wrap today.
I'm very much looking forward to the Generative AI Applications Summit. I think it's going to be a great energy. We will also have a dinner together, and the joint workshop that we will have together. So I think we designed it in a way that there's lots of cross. I'm not sure if this is the right way. In German, I would say it that way: cross pollination of ideas, and sort of like synergizing. Yeah. Have a synergetic field and environment. I'm very much looking forward to that. Highly excited.
Yeah, me too. You guys have the information. I hope that you can join us. And in any case, if you're interested in generative AI, both for Martin and I, you'll see on the LinkedIn side, our profiles are there. Reach out to us. We'd love to connect. We're going to have another sort of follow-up conversation in another week or two. Hope you can join us then. But for now, thank you guys so much for joining us. Really appreciate you being part of this session, and look forward to seeing you next time.